welcome to this edition of the Law Firm Blueprint. I'm one of your hosts, Jay Ruane. That man over there, Seth Price of Price Benowitz and Blue Shark Digital. Seth, as always, it's another week where we're at this grind. How's your week going?
It's tough. It's a grind. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine, someone in the criminal mastermind this week, and we were talking about the headaches of being at $1 million in revenue. And I said, "Oh, just wait till you get to the revenue, the headaches of $3 million and $4 million in revenue." And he lamented, saying, "Oh, I thought it's supposed to get easier, and it does in some respects. And then some things get harder because you're dealing with issues that you never ever addressed before, right?"
Well, I mean, look, it's funny with kid raising. Bigger kids, bigger problems. Because I always thought when my kids were little and one kid was punching another, and people said bigger kids, bigger problems. And now you're dealing with stuff where they got opinions and they wherewithal, and they're a couple of years from emancipation, and it's a different world, different issues. By analogy, we're in 2 8-figure organizations. It's there are issues, and one of the things that's sort of striking me, we talked a ton during COVID about ripping the Band-Aid off and going hybrid or going fully virtual, and now versions of hybrid. We've talked a little bit about the fact that corporate America is forcing people back.
Yes.
Big laws doing 3 days a week in DC. All different formulas. Some are everybody's Tuesday, Thursday, pick a day. Some are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all different versions of it. But I'm Blue Shark, for example, it has a clubhouse situation where people come in for meetings. In one sense, it's awesome. In one sense, productivity is through the roof compared to water cooler bullshit, interpersonal conflict. All of that's gone. But when you want to create something, it's great for running, but saying, hey, I really want to be able to have a video strategy, right? This isn't SEO. This is not even social. This is like, what do I want my video? And the idea that you're sitting down and build, you can organize a Zoom for it. But what I have found it harder to do is to build and create when you don't have that walk by spark. And I'm old. They're not. They do it themselves. But when I wanted to implement it, I'm struggling with the idea of how do I bring constituents together in a meaningful way for idea building?
That's a really interesting thing that you say. And, it actually brings up another topic that I want to talk about. So I'll piece them together if you don't mind. And that is the culture aspect of it. If you have a culture and if you're a relatively new firm, in the last 4 or 5 years, and you developed during most of COVID and you grew and you scale and everyone was apart, you might have a culture that lends itself to the remote first approach. And you can overcome some of those ideas with Slack channels and Zooms and whiteboards and that type of thing. But if you have any legacy employees that are 10 years with you, there is nuance that comes from being able to see somebody's facial reaction. There is just synergy of talking and being able to turn to the person next to you while somebody else is talking and throw an idea, which you can't do there in a Zoom. I guess you could chat it among people, but that doesn't necessarily work, and you don't get the same sarcasm.
And that's why the law firm is so much harder, because you have the legacy employees and you're not going to get rid of them.
Right.
And look, something I'm looking at within the law firm is making sure I look at each business unit and making sure that we upgrade as much as possible. Our personal injury department, it's unbelievable what they've done as far as bringing on insane talent, but not taking the idea that somebody's been there for a long time and therefore it dovetails into what you're talking about, which is, if we're in a new world, do we need, are the same people great in it? And I could say that the Blue Shark world has built with people much younger than us doing the work in team environments. Not that there haven't been issues, and not that we haven't had to put band-aids on things and then build out areas that we saw problems, but that it's the younger generation is more adept at this, whereas the older generation, we're not, I pick up the phone, me, versus these guys, you pick up the phone, you're insulting them.
Well, and well, think about that from a execution of legal product perspective, that now we have to deal with consumers of our services not wanting to be in the room with their lawyer. Like, I couldn't imagine my parents sitting down to do a closing or write their will and not have had multiple in-office meetings with the lawyer that was going to do the work for them. And for me, I had a friend of the show, John Drapp, draw up some trust documents for me, and it was text message, signature here, signature there. I haven't even been to his new office.
I just sold a last piece of a decrepit property portfolio the other day, and I have taken this. I'll be pre-COVID. My personal belief is, why would I ever, as a seller, want to be at a closing table? Right? To me, it's only going to cost me money.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody's going to get a few dollars out of me. And the idea that I could pay $150, a notary comes to my house and I just sign away the documents, no brainer. Right? So part of it is this mindset. But I'll tell you something so one of the things, and I remember when I first saw the Ben Glass world after being away from it for many years, and they were really good at VIP clubs and dinners, and they really did a very, very nice job of cultivating a referral world. So it's on our plate. We have a marketing director. We're like, okay, let's do this. It's been like pulling teeth. And part of the issue, I believe, is that when you don't have, and we went to remote signups well before COVID, but that interpersonal piece, and you get it in criminal because you're there with them in flesh and blood. But on the civil side, a lot of people sign up online, never make it to the office, and close digitally or by FedEx. And the idea that we're trying to build this referral world, it is something I am now struggling with, but I'm taking a conscious building approach to saying, hey, I don't have a perfect situation and that people are going through. How can I compensate for that to keep raving fans? Because the substance is good. Our lawyers are good. But how do I keep that relationship going?
Well, it's interesting. As you're saying this, I'm thinking to myself, we've niched down really well. We have a lot of technology that we use. Hell, I have a whole approach, I could say, that we do criminal defense for introverts. And, some people are going to respond to that and say, I want to interact with a firm that I don't have to get on the phone for.
But respectfully, isn't that going to be, it's as great as it is, and they may love it. Will it resonate when they need it again, or to tell somebody else?
That's the rub,
because the person who's the introvert isn't the person telling their friends. You, by definition, not that criminal lawyers get, but by definition, you're niching to a group that doesn't. Look, it's already in a group of people that don't want to talk about their criminal lawyer. Now, as great as you are, because you're one of the most personable people in the space, people love you around the country. Connecticut, DUI, Jay Ruane. It's like literally like say New York, Med Mal. John Fisher's name comes up 20 times, right? So the thought is, how do we take that? Because I'll tell you what I'm thinking. You tell me what you're talking about.
I'll say, so I want to layer on top of that this demographic shift, because the Zoomers, the people who were born post 2000, are now coming into adulthood. They're in their 20s. They're, the next 20 years are going to be the majority of their need for legal services. And this is a generation that was raised with iPads and iPhones and FaceTiming and instant messaging, DMs and that type of thing. And it sounds to me like what I'm hearing from the social scientists out there, from the demographic people, is that generation of the Zoomers, so they're post-millennials, they are more socially awkward. They prefer to interact via screen, and I'm thinking this is going to have a major impact, not only on the PI space, right? It's going to have an impact on the trust and estates and probate space. You know, their parents pass away. It's already a stressful time. You want to make your life easier to get those clients in the door, that type of thing. From the criminal's perspective, you've got the issue of standing in front of a jury and having to argue a case. You know, I've been interviewing lawyers. And it's a quick aside. I've been interviewing lawyers for 20 years to join my firm. It's amazing. 20 years ago, it was, I want to be a trial lawyer. Now it's, I want to be an appellate lawyer, because an appellate lawyer gets to sit in their office most of the day and then makes
office. You're already showing your age. That's in their office, sitting on the beach in Maui, like doing their, what do you care where they are?
But see, the thing is with that is, and then they go and they have one day, 20-minute or 30-minute or whatever appearance in front of a judge. And so they can psych themselves up for it, but otherwise they're incredibly introverted. I just think that there's going to be a tremendous change to the consumers, to the lawyers that are servicing those consumers, to everything. And if we're not thinking about it, building a practice that can support that and actually attract those customers, you're going to run into a problem down the line.
Well, look, I look at you. I'm sitting here on the Zoom. I see Jay's big noggin there.
My 8 head.
Yeah, no, but in a good way, meaning you're there and you're a presence, right? And part of it is, like, to me, what I'm thinking that I need to do, as we talk about people who scale with multiple lawyers, particularly as you talk about these introverts or whatever on the continuum, very few people are at the level that we do. I know you call yourself an introvert, but it's like you're an extrovert introvert, you know. So
I'm an introvert in the sense that I am exhausted talking to people.
Understood, but you still do a great job when you're doing it. So my thought is, you take what I'm working towards. I'll tell you what, work in progress. So I'm breaking the Jay Ruane rule, or I have to have done it successfully, which is to create a presence, regardless of lawyer. Hi, this is Seth. Welcome to our firm. I hope you have a great experience. If you don't, I'm here. Let them do their work. Check in once through. Hope it's going well. If it's not, let me know. I hope that everybody's kicking butt. Great experience. Awesome. I hope it was great for you. Now, if we can ever help you for anything, here's my textable number. Send it to me. If we don't do it, we'll find somebody. Think of us as your lawyers for life. Stay with us. But the idea that I can't scale that just with the lawyers, just like you've talked on prior shows about whether or not you want people going to bar events, right? So the idea here is, you know, if I could take Jay Ruane and have them remember Jay, even though you weren't the person doing their DUI, and kept that Jay brand and energy and enthusiasm, even if it tires you out, you can take a nap afterwards, but do that digitally and be able to message it. Then when Jay Ruane is in a TikTok or whatever it is, any sort of media, it resonates. Hey, this is the brand, because A, your associates move on, and B, they're not, even the partners you have may not get to the level of connectivity. And it'd be better if it was them who carried the mantra, but I'm sitting here trying to put butts in seats to a dinner, and I'm not finding that same relation. When they get there, they're thrilled, but how do we create, because to take your point that we have a new generation that socializes differently, unless we meet them where they're at, they're not coming to our office. They're not bonding and getting a hug and remembering that hug. They're instead using different touch points. We have to figure out how to use those touch points to be able to keep that relationship going.
Yeah, I mean, this is what this is what I'm working on, thinking about every day of 2023. Is there are at least half of my population of potential referral sources, potential clients, at least half of them communicate differently than I do. And that is a challenge for me, because like Harlan says, you don't know what you don't know. And I'm not part of that cohort. I'm not part of that demographic. My tendency is not to default to those channels that they use. I'm a perfect example. It'll take me a week to look at my LinkedIn messages or my DMs on certain social channels, because I'm just not thinking about those. But that's how some people default to try to get in touch with you.
Well, but some of these things, look, I agree, but some of that can be outsourced, right? That's where
absolutely
you can do that consciously and saying, hey, I want to do this. But the real question is, if that's where they're at, and look, it's different for everybody. Like, it's so funny that I see, like, some people, if I send a Facebook message to, I get through noise I can't even dream about. And there are people that I sent a LinkedIn message to where it might say, I literally got a message back from somebody. I sent them a message 2.5 years ago. Hey, well, I see it's something, and they just ping me back. So it's just the idea is no, like in a perfect world, if we were being more systematic about it, you basically put people in different tranches and you communicate where they are.
Well, it's interesting, we Seth and I are in the process of being co-authors on Tiger Tactics 2, which I suspect is going to be out, by the end of this year. We've got 7 or 8 different authors who've got their chapters in, but interestingly enough, we started the conversation on a Facebook Messenger thread because when we first started the book, Billy Tarasio, Ryan McKean, and myself, we were on a Slack channel.
And that's why I didn't get into the last book.
And you weren't in the book because you weren't in the channel.
Well, no, meaning, but it was, I wasn't, it
wasn't part of, right.
I was invited, you invited me, but I was not part of I was not part of it. And it was 100% that. Now I'm on Slack. I use Slack.
Yeah, but the thing is, all of our enthusiasm was back and forth in the Slack, and you didn't get to feel that enthusiasm.
Correct.
You weren't part of it. And even in this one, with our 13 or so authors, we have authors that have committed to getting their chapters in, but they haven't responded to a single DM in this group. And then we have others who, the minute there's a post, you see their face up. So I think there's something to be said for taking a moment in March of 2022 and looking at all of your communication channels and making sure that you are where your potential clients are. And another thing, how many of us as lawyers developed a referral practice from lawyers that were older than us? I mean, I know I did. When I was a young lawyer, when I was 25 years old and I was broke, I was taking anything that anybody could get that would give me, and I was getting stuff from the 45, 55-year-old, 65-year-old lawyers that were saying, I don't want to deal with this headache, kid.
You're that guy now. You're the guy giving it to other people.
Right. So but what I'm saying is that, number one, I need to be concentrating on, there's young lawyers out there now who are better tuned into the way people communicate now. And I could be cultivating them for referrals up the line for what we do that they don't do, number one. And number two, I got to find out the way to communicate with them better than before, because I don't want to be lost and this person saying, where did all my referral sources go?
It's funny, though. Let me ask you something. And there are exceptions to every rule, because I saw this on the white collar side. I live in a bunch of different worlds, right? So on the federal side. So the PI side, the nice part is a lot of stuff goes down from larger, older people down to newer guys, because you get a third, it makes money for the big firm, not doing those smaller cases, yada, yada. Outside of that space, it becomes very different. And my question to you is something that I saw, and again, this is a little bit different because in that world, it's bringing in co-counsels. But what I saw in that world was that people generally were networking successfully with their peers. Every once in a while, you hit pay dirt with one person, but there's a lot of effort to get to those senior people. And that if you built a group and grew together, that was where we saw a lot more opportunity and a lot more velocity of referrals versus the one-off. And that when we tried to shoot for the moon, we were not nearly as successful as when we built deep groups with other people rising with us. Your thoughts on that?
So it's interesting because when I first started out, every Thursday we would have a lawyers' lunch, and it was all the young lawyers, at the time, guys and women, within 3 to 5 years of a practice, all getting out of law school, all starting around the same time. So I'd say mid to late 20s to 30. And we had at any point, I don't know, like 10 to 15 people that would be part of this lunch that would meet at delis. I mean, we weren't.
I gotcha.
But the cool thing about that is that, each lawyer in that group, while we focused in the criminal area, everybody had outside interest, and now people have developed into other things. My buddy Augie, who I was a public defender with, he eventually got in. He's a PI guy here in state, and he's, in fact, he just launched a shop. He's doing great, and I'm happy for him, that type of thing. So I can send him stuff when that comes in. He sends me stuff that he knows that I do, because I narrowed down into the niche of DUI, like we've talked about, but what I'm wondering if if there's opportunity here now for me to actually get into those groups using digital tools to be where the people are. Like a 20-year-old lawyer, a 25-year-old lawyer is probably not going to go to lunch with me every week and sit at a deli. They don't do
But
that now.
you're not going to do that either, because that's not the best use of your time. The question now is, are you the elder statesperson that could have a lunch at your office? I've done stuff like this pre-COVID. We had the My Shingle guru. She's a neighbor of mine, Karen Elephant. We had 25 lawyers come for pizza after work and just talk about different ideas. It lasted for a while. It was, I enjoyed it, but the point is, it's like as you grow, stuff we talk about, you want to be home with the kids. They don't have kids to go home to. So that their day shifts and the needs and thoughts and how you value things. But to me, part of why we do this, this is one of those things. The number of people I hear that have, taken something from this and are listening, like, in one sense, you're doing your lunches now at scale by even doing the show.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I mean, and obviously the show sort of gets, my name out there, and that type of thing. I'm just wondering, there needs, I guess it's a question of manifesting it, or that buzzword, or consciously taking actions to develop those things, that whereas in years past it kind of just happened.
But you didn't think how many people you managing now versus then. If you have so many different things, like if you took each of your people out to coffee or lunch on a rotating basis,
it would take me 6 weeks.
Right. And I'm well beyond that.
Right.
So my point is, like, and so we play this whack-a-mole game with what we should be doing. Some of the stuff's done at scale, like our whole PI department went to the Caps game last night. I actually had a benefit I was going to, but went for the wings and beer beforehand. And it's a way of getting that camaraderie, but it's, you don't want to ignore your own people. At the same time, it's great to help people out. What's interesting is that I have now had multiple touch points where I've taken coffees, lunches 3 years ago with no agenda to help somebody out at the very beginning, where 3 years later, they have come back for jobs in one shape or for another, one of whom's now a rock star federal litigator. We have another one, God willing, may end up with another role within our firm. So part of it is, I think what you're getting at is, like, good happens from being out there and doing these things. You don't want to get to the point where you're fat and happy and you have other responsibilities, because those things pay dividends if you're willing to do them.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's like anything. You want to get faster, or you want to work out. You want to build muscle. You go to the gym, and then you wind up going to the gym for 9 months, and then one day, it's raining and you don't feel like getting out of bed. And next thing you know, you don't go for a year. And then you say, I wonder why I haven't had that progress. I mean, really, life is about business growth is about applying a system to grow your business and doing it every day. It's so that when the drive to do it isn't there, the commitment to the system is there. And I think that's really, obviously in the law firm blueprint, we talk a lot about systems, and here's a perfect example, right? So we've got a new collection system in our office, where we want to make it much more visual so that we can track when we're making our collections calls. We don't run a lot of unaccounted for accounts receivable. Our AR for last year was, $75,000.
That's amazing. As a criminal firm, that is
I mean, we are at, like, I think we were at like 98.7% collected.
Do you not do significant payment plans?
They go out as far as 9 months.
And that is remarkable.
Yeah. So, and
are you able to get out of cases in Connecticut?
No.
So how do you get that number so high? Seriously, that is a remark. I know your numbers top line. That's insane. That's less than your credit card fees.
Oh, it's like a third of my credit card fees. I mean, it's negligible. But okay, so I said to myself, I don't want another, $80,000, $75,000 of unachieved money this year. So I've been working now to institute a better, more visual scoreboardy, sort of like the Knock Hazel Jumbotron type of, look at these numbers and look at them every day type of thing, so you know where you're at. And we've been able to cut that down even more. Of our uncollected money since January 1, we've recovered 35% of that, and we're on pace to be under $50,000 in lost money over the course of the year. But the way we do it is we follow a system, and we do it every day. And so one of the workers came to me today and said, we have this group of 15 people that are delinquent, and it's been 15 days that we've been messaging them, but we should just stop because they're not going to, we can't get in touch with them. I said, system says you run it for 45 days, and they're like, but I said, no, we do it every day. That's what we do. We
are you using text, you doing calls? What are you doing?
We do text, we do calls, we have scripts that they follow.
And who's doing, is that done overseas?
Right now it's done in-house. We're recruiting somebody overseas to assist with it. But here's the thing. We instituted this at the beginning of January, but then I had them go back in and actually look at last year's number and create the tracking spreadsheet. We're starting to collect money we collected $1,000. Now,
okay,
$1,000 is not nothing.
No, I got you. Our next show, we are
from January 2020.
I know I'm getting upset, not upset. I'm getting anxious. Can we make an entire show about collections? I know we'll lose our PI people, but I feel like
I'd love to.
Let's kick off next show on collections, because to me that is, and the other thing I just want to tip everybody off to is that we have a new concept that we are looking to bring out as we both travel and get some vacation in. You want to tell everybody what about our guest host concept?
Yeah, we're going to bring in some guest hosts to do the shows, sort of like with PTI. That's sort of what we model ourselves on here. But when Seth or I are going to be out of the loop, instead of taking the week off, which is what we've had to do in the past, we'll bring on some guests. We'll bring on some of our co-authors from Tiger Tactics, some other people in the industry, just to sort of get their sense of what's going on in their world. We'll flip around between personal injury, criminal, trust and estates, family law, business organizational law. We'll talk about a little bit of everything. And I think it's a great way for us to continue to grow this brand, because there's a lot of systems that may exist in a PI firm that I wouldn't know much about, or somebody who does residential real estate closings at scale. And some of those ideas are things that we could use to help everybody. So I'm really excited about doing that.
That's awesome.
All right. So I guess we have coming up next week, then we're going to talk all about collections. For all of those B2B law firms that have to charge people, like trust and estates and family law, and criminal law, especially. I have a lot of experience doing that. The PI people may want to actually listen in and hear what it's like that we have to do to actually get money out of people, because depending on the type of law that you practice, people might be dying to throw money at you. I can see, like in an immigration practice, because it's something they really want.
No, but they have collections issues. I'd say family is probably the one that that's the one that I see the people getting upside down the most.
Oh, sure.
They're doing great money and they're not making it.
And they're not collecting.
Client management. And, I have an internal debate, and I don't want to, we'll talk about this in depth, but I have two lawyers, one of whom has massive collections, more than your entire firm, but they also single-handedly bill into the seven figures. So if you're doing 1.3 and collecting 1.1, that's a large number, but is that okay? I have another woman who maybe it's 700 and change, but has negligible $10,000 in collections. What do I root for?
Oh, that's a good question.
So what I'm saying is I'm going to challenge you next week. Are there times where you want your collections higher? Because if they're not, you haven't pushed hard enough. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about it. I love
Awesome.
that. That'll be a great topic. All right, folks, that's going to do it from us. As always, you can catch us every weekday here live in the Law Firm Blueprint, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. But more importantly, take us on the go. When you do take us on the go with anywhere podcasts are available, be sure to give us a 5-star review. When you do that, have yourself a nice little search for the Law Firm Blueprint podcast, available on Apple, Google, Spotify, etc., etc. Seth, any parting words?
No, have a great week and weekend, and we will see you next week talking all about collections.
Awesome. We'll look forward to it, folks. Bye for now.